Morning of June, hopefully the last of the heat for a bit, although we don't want to complain because we don't want any of that white stuff either, so let's keep it at the hot stuff. Attendance, Spencer's taken our attendance. We note that we have Ron, thank you for connecting while you're away on vacation, thank you, and Mayor Bailey is also connecting on Zoom. And everybody else is here present in council chambers. Before we get started, I just thought maybe it'd be an opportunity for Acting Inspector McTaggart to introduce to us his acting staff sergeant, just so that I know some of us have already met and we probably already, but it's an opportunity for everybody else to also meet him as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kevin Kudnies is filling in as the operations manager, acting staff sergeant for Brant County Detachment, for the interim that I'm filling in as the interim detachment commander. So he's been my right-hand man for the next few months, and together we'll work together and hopefully continue on the path forward. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. This is my second meeting, so just kind of gathering up as much information as I can get and try to assist Jason the best that I can moving forward. So I'm happy to be here and look forward to keep doing some work with you.
Well, welcome. We will look at the agenda. There is one item to add under other business, and Spencer's suggesting maybe between 9 and 10 we'll add an other business. It's just a reconfirmation of a decision we made last year that we need to kind of get on the books this year. But other than that, are there any other, Councilor Pierce?
Madam Chair, if I could, and I'm not sure, I'll look to the clerk for this. I received an email this morning, actually, that needs to be brought up here, but it needs to be in camera because it's kind of an identifiable individual issue. I'm not sure how that works, Spencer.
Can we also just, is it operational in nature, or is it something that the board would be?
Yeah, I would say.
So is it a board matter, or is it communications protocol that we have to go through first?
It was asked to bring up here of a situation. I can't really.
Sure, I understand. I guess I'm just trying to parse out, has the person followed the communication protocols?
Yes.
Okay, so an in-camera discussion then?
If we could, please.
Through the chair, we can go under section 44.2B, which is personal matters about an identifiable individual, if that's what you think would be the most appropriate.
I think that's important to get this out, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Any other items to add to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, a motion to approve the amended agenda then, please. Member Brown and Councillor Pierce will second that. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Any declaration of pecuniary interest at this time? Seeing none. We have no delegations, petitions, or presentations. Our minutes from the previous meeting of May 27th are in our package. Any corrections, errors, or omissions? Okay, seeing none then, we'll have a motion to approve those minutes, please. Member Stryker and Mayor Bailey, thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, business arising from the minutes that may not come up on our agenda elsewhere. Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Through you, I guess to Acting Staff Sergeant Kudnies, were you able to find anything in regards to the plaques and such at Burford?
Yes, to Madam Chair, to Councillor Pierce. So I went through our occurrences for the last 3 months, and the only occurrence that was reported to us as a theft in the Burford area was from March. And that was vases that were being removed from grave sites. And other than that, we haven't received any other calls for service in regards to what you had brought up. So I would encourage the individual to reach out to us and make a formal complaint so we can follow up on that, because as of this point, we don't have anything.
Okay, I appreciate that. I can talk to Councilor Miller, who brought it up to me through a constituent. I'll see him tonight, so I'll bring it up with him tonight.
Sure. And I guess, just to follow up on that, just a reminder that we aren't to deal with operational things necessarily. Like, obviously, it's a concern, but if they're not calling it in to the 1-800 number, so if, this is more of a message perhaps for anybody that's watching, but to call your counselor to complain about something, if you haven't called into the 1-800 number to make a complaint to the O.P.P. is fruitless. It needs to be called in so it can get logged and captured, and an officer can be sent out to investigate. Calling a counselor to, without having that step involved is not helpful. So I'm just, for those that are watching, that we need to make sure that everybody calls into the non-emergency line so that those things can get captured, because to your point, there wasn't anything specific to those complaints that Councillor Pierce was bringing forward from that area. So if people, they may understandably are upset with the situation, but if they're not calling it in, then it's not, we're not getting to the bottom of it. So thanks for following up on that. And I assume you'll follow up with Councillor Miller as well.
I will, yep. I'll see him tonight. Thank you.
Okay, it's time to get into our report from the detachment commander. And I'll pass it over to Acting Inspector McTaggart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start report off by reporting on our collisions by type for the month of May. Once again, we had 0 fatality collisions for the month of May, and 1 overall for the year so far. I just want to highlight that that is, I think, due to a number of factors, of which are proactive policing in the communities and those initiatives that we have in place, I hope are seeing the reflection in these numbers. I know the fatal collisions aren't always something that we can get ahead of and act on, but I think a lot of the enforcement speaks to this trend that we're seeing. And I don't want to jinx myself by saying anything, but I really do hope that this continues moving forward. The personal injury collisions for May were at 7, total 49, and the property damage collisions for May were at 52 for a total of 283 for the year to date. Moving ahead to criminal code and provincial statutes. Criminal code non-trafficked, we had 45 for the month of May. Criminal code traffic, 15. Highway Traffic Act charges, 307. 1 Liquor License Act, and 23 under the other violation categories. Moving down to the traffic-related charges breakdown, we had 140 speeding tickets, 2 seat belts, 10 impaired drivers, which actually works into approximately 5. I talked about that previously, that we double charge on some of those occurrences. And there was actually, when I went into the niche, our assistant capturer, we had actually 6 incidents. So there was 6 impaired incidents, of which 10 charges were laid. And then we had 1 distracted driver. Moving ahead to violent crime, the only numbers we're seeing for violent crime are our assaults at 6 for the month of May, and other offenses involving violence or threat of violence stood at 7 for a total of 13. Property crime, we had 1 arson in May, 7 break-and-enters, which is up from 2 from this time last year. Theft over 5,000s were at 8. Theft under 5,000s at 12, and then the possession, trafficking, stolen goods. We had none. Frauds, we had 13, and mischiefs, we had 8. Moving ahead to drug crime, we didn't have any drug crime identified for the month of May. We do have active investigations that are currently ongoing, but nothing for the report. And those other occurrences that I do have an answer for this that hopefully I can speak to on the next meeting. I just wanted to wrap my head around the information I just got yesterday late on this, that hopefully I can speak to the board on the next meeting in July to provide more of a fulsome understanding under what is classified as other crime occurrence. And then moving ahead to public complaints, we did not have any public complaints for the month of May, and 4 for the total of the year. The daily activity reporting patrol hours, again, we are seeing an increase over last year. We had 1,359 hours dedicated in 2025 for May to patrol hours. The youth charges, once again, no youth charges for the month of May. Mental Health Act occurrences, we saw 25 occurrences for May, of which were broken down into attempt or threat of suicide were 2, family dispute is 1, intimate partner violence is 1, the actual traditional Mental Health Act 19, trouble with youth 1, and unwanted person 1, for a total of 25. We had no overdose occurrences for the month of May. And moving ahead to the referrals to victim services, we offered 56 individuals were offered victim services, of which 16 accepted. And I know, Member Stryker, you asked if we were able to dive a little deeper into those numbers. And unfortunately, I did speak to our community mobilization officer, and other than what we were able to report by age, I think that's something victim services may be able to potentially provide more context to as to why individuals are accepting and not accepting, not accepting these services. We don't capture those stats other than what is reported here to the board. So hopefully that satisfies the question you had for last meeting. Okay. And I'm going to move ahead now to some of the local information that I do speak to, and I hope to next report have a one-page addendum to the report, the board report, that will hopefully capture some of these highlights I'm going to speak to, so the board has an awareness prior to our meeting, as well as wherever those minutes are shared from here on in. So the next meeting, you can expect to see a one-page addendum with highlighting some of our local pieces I'm speaking to right now. So I'll start off with staffing. So for the month of May, Constable Keshorn Staffen joined us at Brant Detachment from Cochrane, where he has served 4 years. PC Staffen has a family in Burford, so he's well familiar with the Brant area and is very excited to be back. He replaces Constable Jordan Garten, who was a successful applicant for the serious fraud crime unit that he has moved on to. Also, Carlos Prata joined us from Wellington County Detachment in May, where he has served 3 years. Constable Prata will be moving to the area once he completes his home build. He's currently residing in Waterloo Region, and he replaces Constable Benzara, who transferred to Leeds County Detachment in April. Regarding community mobilization, I did speak to the mental health component of the board report, and Council Murphy has put together some more details in regards to that. So our MCERT worker responded to 5 of those crisis calls that were identified of those 25, and there were 8 new coast referrals from those 25 occurrences. Total time spent in the emergency room was 17 hours and 28 minutes times 2 officers. The mean time spent in the emergency room with apprehensions was 2 hours and 11 minutes. And the time in the emergency range from 44 minutes to 4 hours and 17 minutes. Council Murphy completed the Red Dress Initiative with Paris District High School grade 11 art students. She also completed our 2025-2026 Community Safety Grant application, and she attended McHappy Day for community engagement, as well as attended the Scotland Daycare for a safety talk with 24 students. She attended the Safety Village for grade 3 bicycle safety presentation, and she organized a clothing collection from Detachment for members of Nova Vita. She also attended several meetings and assisted with the media releases that Constable Buchert posts on a regular basis. Moving ahead to our school resource officer, PC Vitalis. He had a number of occurrences at the high school involving various incidents, none of which resulted in charges. He attended the Cobblestone Elementary School to deliver the O.P.P Kids program to 3 classes. Himself, as well as our cadet, attended the Children's Safety Village of Brant to deliver 4 bicycle safety presentations to county schools. And he also administered the bicycle safety presentation, Girl Guides, in partnership with the Ministry of Transportation and Grand Area Health Unit for the MTO Road Safety Shield. That's a badge that those guides would receive as a result of participating in that. Moving along to media, Council Buchert put out 11 media releases, 91 posts to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Again, he was part of the Women's Recruiting Initiative, McHappy Day, Motorcycle Safety Traffic Campaign, which resulted in 5 motorcycle safety videos. We've increased the foot patrol downtown. We had Wheels on Pavement event, Police Family Fun Day. And moving to our traffic management unit, to date, there has been from July 2021 till May 31st of 2025, 81,319 Part 1 charges, 360 Part 3, and 29 criminal charges. For the month of May, which is Constable Hall, he issued 118 Part 1 charges for a total for 2025 of 1,445 Part 1 charges. Also for the month of May, we had several traffic campaigns, the Motorcycle Safety Awareness Week, Canada Road Safety Week, Safe Boating Week, ATV Awareness Week, as well as the Stop and Look campaign, which I initiated, which ran from May 5th to the 9th, of which 68 tickets were issued to various people through the county. So I feel that that is an initiative that we need to move forward on. I have spoke to it on a prior report, that our stop sign collisions do have very much long-lasting impact to those that are involved. And by seeing these numbers, it tells me that there is more enforcement education required. Moving ahead to Crime Stoppers, in May, 6 tips were issued to Brant County O.P.P, 54 to the city, Brantford City, and 7 to Six Nations. And I wanted to bring the board's awareness to a noteworthy event that came to me several months ago, but actually was executed during the month of May. And there may have been some, this was a media release that was sent out, the board may have seen this, but I wanted to draw some attention to the local component here in Brant County. So you may have seen an O.P.P media release regarding a seizure of 38 kilograms of fentanyl, which was the largest O.P.P seizure to date. During an 11-month investigation, drug trafficking in southwestern Ontario, the seizure and an alarming quantity of fentanyl, methamphetamine, and cocaine. There was 15 individuals facing 140 charges on the criminal code, as well as the Controlled Drug and Substances Act. So several months ago, individuals from our organized crime came and met with me at Brant Detachment. They explained to me what Project Golden was, and this is what I'm speaking to in this matter, and indicated that they were looking for some support in a command post setting moving forward. So what that meant for us was there was an investigation in our counties, and I refer to it as the syndicate, between us, Norfolk, Haldimand, and Oxford, as well as outside in the GTA, and they were looking potentially for a centralized location to bring all this back and process, because you can imagine the sheer amount of resources required for this. Based on where Brant Detachment is situated and the facility we have here, through ongoing communications and collaboration, I offered up Brant Detachment as a command post for this massive takedown. And I could say that it was a complete success. Brant County, although we didn't have anybody arrested in Brant County, the distribution to Brant has been significantly cut down in fentanyl. These individuals were a large supplier of fentanyl to Brant County, and I'm pleased to say that our facility served this project well and continues to speak to the collaboration with our municipal partners, as well as our own units within the O.P.P, and the ability to provide those meaningful locations that are required to operate these big projects. So once again, Brant Detachment was highlighted here in this case to be the centralized location for processing of the drugs, the property, the individuals. And I received numerous appreciation accolades from our partners thanking us for having such a fantastic facility to run this through. So I wanted to share that with the board because I don't think we share enough of those big news stories that actually bring us back to Brant and what Brant did for this larger project. So in totality in this investigation, there was 38 kilograms of fentanyl, 19.5 suspected methamphetamine kilograms, 5.5 kilograms of cocaine, 14 grams of suspected MDMA, 3 firearms, including 2 handguns and a rifle, brass knuckles, $121,000 in currency, and 3 vehicles related to property that were all seized as a result of this joint project. And that would not have happened had we not had a location to potentially process this and bring everybody to. So once again, although Brant did not see individuals arrested here, we had the impacts of having this project impact us here in Brant and in the community that we see here today. So I wanted to share that with the board. And I think that is it. Acting Staff Sergeant Cody spoke to the plaques that Councillor Pierce brought up. And I believe that was, and I spoke to Member Stryker regarding the follow-up to the victim services. So I think that's all the business from last meeting as well as the report for this week. Thank you.
You're ending on a bang. Wow, that's pretty impressive. I mean, I understand that no one from Brant necessarily was part of that arrest, but taking those drugs off the streets that impact Brant and Brantford, that's huge. And I'm really happy to hear that our facilities were able to be used in a way that facilitated that process in such a great way. I mean, I'm sure we all are. That's those numbers are staggering amounts. I saw the release, but I obviously didn't. You wouldn't have made the connection, but that now brings it a little bit closer to home, and that's very encouraging. So just as a follow-up before we move into some of the questions and answers, Acting Inspector McTaggart talked about the one-page context. I did have it on my notes as well to follow up with when we were at the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards conference. We were able to connect with the O.P.P. Team that Acting Inspector McTaggart also works with on this report. And they're working through all the trials and tribulations of the detachment commander report template. They're very well aware of the lack of information that it provides boards. They're trying to get to a point right now with this report where it's at least the same across all detachments in Ontario, because it wasn't. They're also at the same time building a new database. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're building a new database that will capture additional statistics. So we'll see this statistical report change and evolve as well over time. But what we did say to them was, we gave them the example last meeting of our youth occurrences and then the extra information that was provided about youth involvement and engagement. And if you only read the statistics, you see one picture, but when you hear the verbal side of it, you see a completely different side of the picture. And so we talked about the idea of putting in a approximately one-page addendum for contextual, and I think we've all talked about the context many, many times. And so Acting Inspector McTaggart and I talked about it, and he's willing to put that into the report for us. It doesn't become part of the statistical report, but it does become part of the package. So then when it's posted online, when it's shared with council, with whomever, that one page or so that they put together with all the oral stuff that we just talked about, then becomes part of this package, and then others can then have that access to that information, which I think is really important. So I appreciate your willingness to do that. And the O.P.P. was happy to hear that we were offering a solution. We weren't just complaining about the report. We were actually asking if one of the solutions could be, and they felt that was good in the interim. They maybe thought maybe there might be something come out of that in the future. It was just so many different detachment commanders and detachment boards were using the report templates in many different ways, and we saw that with even in our own Zone 4, you know, Oxford might be different than ours, might be different than Ingersoll's within Tilsonburg's, and so I think we're moving forward is a good thing, and I think that having that context will be helpful, and it also help us to review ahead of time and then have that discussion with you as well. But, so thank you for doing that, and we'll open up the floor now for some comments and questions on the report. I'm sure that folks have some things that they'd like to raise. Member Brown?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the acting inspector. On page 15, it notes a significant increase of theft over 5,000, up 85% from 27 to 50. Are you able to correlate what the predominant number of those offenses are? Does it relate to theft of motor vehicles, or is it something else that?
Through the chair, Member Brown, so the theft over 5,000 is definitely correlated to motor vehicles. And that's a challenge we're seeing across the board with every police service in Ontario, is the theft of motor vehicles, and I spoke to it on previous meetings here as well. So we're trying to get ahead of that trend, but it is a trend we're seeing.
Thank you.
Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Madam Chair, through you. So in talking to, I guess it's Superintendent Quenneville the other day, she gave me full reign to ask as many questions on this report as I can now. So I'll see what I can do about that. So I got a couple, not too bad. Like I say, I like the new way of the reports. There's good information. I'd just like to just tweak a little if we could. Property crime. With the break-and enters, and I know you can't get into details and stuff like that, but when we speak of break-and enters, are most of them vehicles, or is it kind of a split between home and vehicle? And I don't know if you're able to tell us or not. Are these kind of in the same area-ish, or are they sporadic across the county?
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Pierce. So break-and-enters are traditionally a residence per se, or a business. If any thefts from motor vehicles would be classified as a theft versus a break-in.
Okay.
So yeah, the criminal code speaks to the definitions of break-and-enters. So traditionally, those are referred to in business and residence areas. And I know we did have a slight increase in May over last year, from 5 up 5. But we are not seeing a trend per se that certain areas are being targeted over others. We continue to educate and message members that are in a rural setting to please lock your house. Because if your shed is left open, there's no lock on it, or you don't lock your house, you are inviting people to come in without actually inviting them in. They'll take that advantage. So we do see those break-and-enters to a residence where there's no actual damage, but those individuals are free to enter the house by turning the knob of the door and it's unlocked. So yes, that is part of it, is the homes and the education and reminding individuals to please lock up after yourselves, because I would hazard to guess that we could probably cut a lot of those out of there. But we do see crime from time to time sporadically through the county, and it's usually the same group that commits these break-and-enters that eventually we will catch up to them. We just have to get that evidence from the initial scene to be able to link other scenes and people to that. And DNA is a big part of that as well.
Okay, thank you for that. So if we scoot on down to page 20 of our report for the daily activity reporting. So it's good to see, like I say, with the patrol cruiser hours going up. If we relate that to number of days within May, it works out to 56.6 days, which is a lot of patrol, so I appreciate that. I know we've kind of spoke about it before, but I don't know if there's any way to understand if we can get we used to get the breakdown of, east or south or north. I don't know if we can potentially break that down into quadrants of the county. I'm not sure with the new reporting if we're able to do that, but if we can, that would be great. Other than that, like I say, it's good to see those hours going up and holding strong on the foot patrol as well. So I guess my only ask on that is if it's possible to break it down into the quadrants, that would be fantastic. If it's not, then it is what it is. For that one there, and then if we scroll down to with the referrals of victim services again, and I know you'd spoke to Member Stryker in regards to some of that, but I don't know, like I say, so if we look at, for example, if we look at May, and we look at 11 to 16, so referrals accepted, 50%. So I don't know if there's any way to break it down, unless I'm missing something here, as, you know, was there 2 and one of them was accepted? Was there 20 and 10 were accepted? You know, I don't know if we're able to get that deep into that information, but I'm just, I'm curious here if we're trending into, you know, if you want to look at it, maybe the mid to older generations are accepting the help and the younger ones aren't. I'm just, again, if you can't break it down like that, that's fine. But I'm just curious as to, with those different age groups, do we see a fluctuation as to, you know, how many are accepting? So again, if we go year to date, for example, and if we look at the age range from 11 to 16, so there was, you know, 66.7% were accepted. So again, was there 3 and 2 were accepted, or was there 30 and 10 accepted? I'm just trying to, if we can, kind of dig deeper into those numbers, if that's possible.
Through the chair, Councilor Pierce, I believe that would be a question Victim Services might be able to answer better for you. Like I said, I did dive into Member Stryker's inquiry into this, how much more we could provide. And other than what's provided in the report, there's not a lot more that I could put context to. And I don't want to not identify the proper information to your inquiry. I feel Victim Services, and that might be an opportunity to have them come here and present to the board, and potentially those questions could be answered by them, and then we could also see if they're seeing trends from their end that we could address from our end. And like I said, I really do feel that is better, that question is better posed to someone from Victim Services.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. I don't know if we could.
Yep, well, I just was going to suggest we'll get that lined up, whether it's the July meeting or the September meeting, but we'll
Yeah.
have victim services come in and
Yeah,
we'll have
again,
that.
because where I'm going with this, Madam Chair, if I could, is I don't know, obviously it would be, I guess the same message of help is here, in essence, to whomever it's offered to, but I'm just wondering if there's different different tactics to offer it to, I'll say, children, teenagers type thing, as opposed to adults. And that's just a curiosity thing more than anything. So thank you.
I think we all genuinely want people to get the help they need
Absolutely,
if
yeah.
if there's help available, right?
Yeah.
I know, talking with Member Stryker, and I'm probably stealing your conversation a little bit, but one of the things that this doesn't capture is we also don't know if people aren't accepting them, like maybe they already have care and support in place. So by it saying they didn't accept it doesn't mean that they don't maybe have supports or care in place either. And that doesn't track that, which wouldn't be a policing matter necessarily to track that statistic, but it might be something that Victim Services could give us some insight into.
Right, absolutely, and that's a very good point, Madam Chair. And you know, like I've said before, I'm a huge advocate of the helps that we have available for people, and I mean, they're the professionals for sure as to offer the help, but I'm just curious as to, you know, the acceptance per kind of demographics type thing, and do we differ in how we present the help that's available to the different demographics as well. Thank you. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Councillor Pierce. Member Stryker?
Through you, Chair. As you were talking about break and enters, and you spoke about the need to collect evidence, is there an educational piece for the public about how to preserve a scene? that's available on social media, or is it possible to create something like that? Just to make sure those who are offending face the consequences of such.
Through the chair, Member Stricker, our auxiliary unit does do the CamSafe program, which was the old, I call it CEPTED, community engagement through environmental design, which when we do have a break and enter or a property crime, we'll call it, our members will traditionally ask the property owner if they would like some additional supports in protecting their property and their homes further, at which time then that is reported back, whether they accept it or not, and then our auxiliary unit attends who are trained to provide that education to the homeowner as well as an overall view of the property to assess their needs. Because traditionally we have seen additions of lighting can potentially make your house less susceptible to crime if the individuals leading up to the house are lit up. And I realize this all comes with a financial backing as well, but there's little things you can do that make a lasting difference on your home to protect it and to make it not as vulnerable to individuals in these property crimes that we're reporting on. So we do have that built in. And I would, without asking our members per se, I would hazard to guess the majority of them are already having those conversations with the homeowner, or at least asking them, is there anything we can do to support you in protecting your home and making it safer to live there and less susceptible to crime?
Through the chair, what about proactive education on what to do after? Like, how as a homeowner would I preserve the scene of the crime so that the police can collect the evidence and a charge could follow?
Through the chair, that's a great program potentially to start up here, Member Striker. It's usually after the fact that people become educated on what's important and what's not. And in the process in itself can damage some property, like the fingerprinting residue that's used to pull up prints, the dust is impactful to property. It could potentially damage property when it's applied. But if it reaches to the greater good to identify somebody, then maybe that's a risk the homeowner is willing to take. So 100% I agree with you there that there is potentially some opportunity to educate people on what to touch, what not to touch if you get home. I would say my experiences as a lot of individuals, as soon as they arrive home, if the front door is broken in, they know somebody's been inside, they usually call us right away. The odd time we get individuals that have gone through the whole house looking to what's missing. Meanwhile, they've contaminated the house for footwear, or maybe have touched some of those touch surfaces that would traditionally be something we would target. So absolutely, that's something we can look into, and I appreciate you bringing that up. And if there's an opportunity for us at Detachment to take a proactive approach such as that, to have that educational piece, then absolutely we can look at developing something.
Okay, thank you.
Just looking online and seeing if there's any questions or comments from anybody. Okay, didn't want to miss anybody. All right. Any other questions or discussion points on the Detachment Commander's report? All right. Thank you, Acting Inspector McTaggart, for that. At this time then, I'll ask for a motion to receive the Detachment Commander's report. Mayor Bailey, thank you. Seconded by Member Stryker. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into Section 8 of our agenda, and we have false alarm statistics report from Cindy.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the statistics report today provides stats up to the end of May. And as noted in the report, year to date, there have been a total of 95 responses by O.P.P. In comparison to 93 during the same time period in 2024, which is a small increase of just over 2% year over year. There were quite a few responses during the month of May. I know last month we were trending under, and May has pushed us a little bit over the same time period last year. We did launch the public campaign to mitigate false alarms. And as noted in the report, there was a media release issued on June the 4th. It was shared on our socials and had about 1,400 views on Facebook and 779 on Instagram. And it was also picked up by 3 local newspapers. We also have messaging in the spring O.P.P newsletter, and it will also be included in the County of Brant's summer newsletter, and that goes out to all County of Brant residents. There are also monthly posts scheduled for social media. We are just in the process of finalizing our new warning letters to individual property owners and looking to start issuing those this summer, and we'll start site visits following that. And that is my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the report? Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Through you. Yeah, I was, you kind of touched on the increase in May there. I'm curious with the new process of the reset not happening until they, until they don't have any false alarms in a certain time period. Has there been any feedback from these folks that we've gone to and said, sorry, the reset will happen when you're clean? I'm just curious if we've had any feedback that can be repeated.
Through the chair, nothing that has been brought to my attention. So I'm not aware that anybody has called, and I would suspect that it likely would get transferred to myself to respond to that. So I haven't heard anything to this point.
Okay, thank you.
Do folks actually pay their bills, or do these sit in arrears? Because if we're doing all this and they, could have potentially several escalating charges, are they actually, how does that get recovered?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, we did look at that within the last quarter, and history is showing that the property owners are paying the bills. There is a significant percentage that have been paid. So we have not been in the position where we've had to chase anybody down to this point.
That's good news. Any other comments or questions on the false alarm report? If not, we'll have a motion to receive for information. Councillor Pierce, Member Brown, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We also have 8.2 in our package with respect to the 2024 budget that I'll ask Cindy to review.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, this report provides an overall summary of our funds utilized from 2024. Overall, 93.91% of the budget funds were utilized. There were some accounts a bit over, some slightly under. As per the report, because of the pause in the board operations last year, certain activities weren't able to move forward, so the funds were not spent. But that did allow, I think, for the unexpected cost with the insurance policy to be covered adequately under the board funds in 2024. And any of the changes that transpired as a result of the new act, the new board discussed as part of our budgeting process for 2025, so those have been incorporated. And I do plan to bring a variance report year-to-date for 2025 to the July meeting, so the board can see where the current funds sit.
That's great. Any questions on that? Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just 2 quick ones. Do we ever budget for meals?
Through the chair, I don't believe this board budget has included a separate GL line for that in the past. Our finance folks, though, are very, very detailed on where to allocate accounts because everything's audited. So if they see something come through that should be charged to meals, they'll create a GL specifically for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know. And can you just remind us again, the public relations / awards? Can you just remind us what that entails?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So a significant portion of that is for the publication of the Brant dispatch. This year, there will be some savings in that because we are anticipating the Canada Post strike. And a lot of those funds are used to print the newsletter and then mail it out as well. There are other events and activities incorporated into that account. One is the golf tournament, the youth academy. I have a whole list. Of course, it's on my computer, which is sleeping right now. But yeah, I can provide that to you. And I know this year the board specifically identified all of those things as part of this year's budget.
Right, okay. And you kind of segued into right where I wanted you to, in regards to the dispatch with it being online. Do we know, and I'm just trying to recall how it was put online, do we know how many hits it got?
Through the chair, I have not asked for that information as of yet, but I can follow up.
Okay, because it'd be interesting to know because maybe that's the way to go. Who knows, right? I know we've kind of discussed that as a board, but, you know, and I'm, you know, I've got no problem spending the money to put that out there because I feel it's worth it. But on the other side of that coin, if we're getting, you know, just as many hits, maybe more, if it's online, maybe we do what we did and, you know, print off a few to have them in the libraries and the community centers and that sort of stuff, but the main push is online.
So we can maybe look at that in July because
Yeah.
we'll be preparing for the fall dispatch.
Be curious
Just
to know.
On a note with the 20, just I guess to follow up to Councilor Pierce's question, more of a comment, this is really only a few months of 2024 because January, February, March, we were formerly the Police Service Board. April 1st, right? All last year we waited from April 1st till October. And then in October we met and we tried to catch up a little bit on some stuff. So this is the first quarter of 24 and the last quarter of 24 basically-ish. Because we could not, like we didn't sponsor the golf tournament last year. We didn't do some of the things like barbecues. We didn't do some of the things last year because we weren't a board. So we can expect, well, Cindy will have a 25 report for us. We can expect where that'll, was it fair to say that the insurance also was unbudgeted? So that's, you know, we would have been probably more underspent if it hadn't have been for the insurance as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Just to follow up on your question on the public relations, so I was able to bring that up. So specifically for this year, the board budgeted funds for the Youth Academy, general community sponsorships, the Emergency Services Golf Tournament, holiday appreciation from the board, summer barbecues. There's some funds there for community engagement opportunities, the newsletter, and a one-time sponsorship for the Special Olympics.
Right. Perfect.
Member Stryker?
Hi, through you, Chair. I was just wondering, two questions. What happens to the surplus from last year? Like how does that get processed, recorded?
Are you asking, just a clarification, are you asking about the reserve or the underspend of the actual budget?
The underspend of the actual budget.
Through you, Madam Chair, so any funds that are not spent go to the county's kind of general surplus, and council at that point decides how they want to allocate the surplus overall for the entire municipality.
Okay, thank you. Another question through the chair. If the board approves purchases of equipment, I was thinking of like the VIN reader that we did, where would that show up on this report?
Through you, Madam Chair, the VIN reader, we may have to create an account specifically for materials and supplies. For 2025, we did not budget a specific amount for materials and supplies, but that's where something like that would go from an accounting perspective.
Okay, so regardless of whether it's an expense, as like a supply would be, versus an asset that would be depreciated over, 3 to 5 years, it would go in the same account?
Through you, Madam Chair, an asset from sort of our accountant folks is typically something that has a value of over $10,000. And that would then be treated differently from something that's under that value.
Just a note, perhaps, just for information, we have the reserve of 7518, and that would have been the cumulative of our proceeds from auction sales that would have been received by the former board before we became the detachment board. So that is sitting in reserve for us. I know Cindy and I have talked about some policy framework around that in terms of what that can be used for, so that we have some clarity, and that it's on our to-do list. Just there's too many things on the to-do list as we start up this new board. But you also remember that in the new act, another piece of collateral damage to the board, all boards, O.P.P boards, is that the proceeds from auctions do no longer come to us. They go back to the province, which is unfortunate because municipal police services can still keep theirs. There is a lot of work, and there was several motions at the police service board, so that whole long acronym, their conference. Many O.P.P boards are very upset with this process and expect that money back. So they feel that it's oversight by the Solicitor General to have missed this. And so Lisa Darling with the OAPSB is working to try and right the wrong. But for anything that we've got so far for 24 as a detachment board, late 24 or anytime in 25, currently we have to follow the provincial regulations, which requires the detachment to forward those checks to the province to get potentially lost in the bigger provincial scheme. But right now, we still have the 7,500 that we carried forward from our previous time period, and then we'll bring back to the board some policy guidelines on how we may want to treat those funds. But they sit separate from the budget that we have received from the county. The other thing that it doesn't capture in here is any of the grants that the detachment will apply for. Acting Inspector McTaggart's talked about different community safety grants, ride grants, different things that they get grants. This wouldn't be reflected here. It's reflected in the county's budget, like that is administered through the county financially. And so that'll be reflected through the county's budget, not through ours. This is just specifically for our board. However, many boards are very frustrated with that process as well, because if the province wants the board to be the governance oversight of our police services, but then the extra grants are, then that used to be a function that we would have had some conversations and discussions with. We get reports on them in terms of what the outcomes, but there would have been some discussion here at the board table. So there's also some work with the Solicitor General, because that was another piece of collateral damage that they didn't think that through in terms of taking that piece out from the boards. So they're looking at putting that potentially back in. If it happens, don't anybody hold their breath, but that's maybe something that it seems like there's a lot of things that we're now catching, right? So anything else on the budget at this time? Okay, so if nothing else, then we'll have a motion to receive that report from Cindy. Councillor Pierce, Member Boudreau, all those in favor? And that's carried as well. Okay, let's move on to 9 communications, 9.1 in our package. This is the information that is going to be used for the 2026 municipal police billing statement that the county will receive. Another conversation that I had in the hallways at the conference, there's a lot of concern. You remember that the county received a grant proportional to our size and structure from the province to help offset the cost of policing. All the O.P.P boards across Ontario did. Municipal police services aren't too happy with that because they didn't get any offsetting funding to help with their costs of services. So there's some concern there that the O.P.P boards got something that the municipal boards didn't get. But the next question is, that was only considered to be maybe a short-term grant, and eventually the county and other municipalities are gonna have to absorb the increased cost of policing. So at some point, I think you brought it up in the past, Councillor Pierce, about is this a grant? Is this too good to be true? And it sounds like it's a very short window of a grant, and then at some point we'll see the increase of that extra cost of the policing that we'll have to absorb as a community. And so there's a lot of concern about that as well in terms of especially smaller municipalities being able to offset those costs, but then the municipal police services not having offsetting costs. All this to say is this is just for information at this point, but it helps us understand how they build that property count and how they do the billing statement. If you haven't sat in on a call with, they do quite a few webinars when they get close to the billing model cycle. It is interesting to see if that's something that you're interested in, Member Boudreau and Member Stryker, just to understand how that all comes together. Not that we're responsible for it here at the board, but it's good to understand how it all kind of pulls together. And it's all based on the calls for service. So this is just for information. So I don't believe there's anything we have to do with it. We don't have any motions that we need to do for that. So then we have a new item here under other business. We've talked a little bit about this VIN reader already, and I guess I'm just bringing up, we approved it in December of 24. And if you remember, it's a small piece of equipment. Small things turn into bigger beastings sometimes, but this piece of equipment we approved back in December to help the crime unit with their investigations. And it was approved in the 24 budget. I've talked to Cindy about it. We need to reconfirm, if that's the decision of the board today, we need to reconfirm it for the 25 budget. It did not get acquired in time for the 24. It has not been acquired now until we get the potential green light. But with everything happening at the end of December, did not get acquired in time for the 24 budget, even though we approved it. So if we continue to want to support that with the detachment, and we'll ask Acting Inspector Matega to talk briefly on it, Cindy has advised that we need to reconfirm it today to get it, because it's technically not approved in our 25 budget, so we would need to reconfirm it today if that was the case, to give that direction. So I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add, or if there's anybody that has any specific questions. I'll let you go, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yeah, in regards to what you've already mentioned about the approval of that VIN reader, that has come up at Detachment, I would say in the last 4 weeks, where we've had an investigation. We definitely could have used that piece of equipment. And I did speak to the chair about that and about the process of obtaining one. I know when it was first petitioned, we did provide a quote on purchasing one at that time. And I want to say it was a couple $100. It wasn't a lot of money at that time, at least in my view anyways. There might be an increase in that of a little bit since that initial quote was obtained, but I've asked our detective sergeant in charge of our community street crime unit to source the model that they would deem would best suit their unit for their purposes. Again, this VIN reader is attached to the electrical components of the vehicle. There's a port that you can plug it in, and it allows us to see the actual VIN of that vehicle when it was off the production line versus the VIN plate that has traditionally been replaced through fraud and whatnot. So It is a valuable piece of equipment. Do we use it every day? No, but when we do need it, we do need it. So I would ask that the board consider purchasing, or at least permission to purchase that unit. And I think it can probably be purchased on Amazon as easy as anywhere else. It's nothing that's specific to us obtaining. It can be purchased by anybody, but definitely it does have a definite need at our detachment, especially when we're speaking to those fighting the theft over 5,000 when it comes to theft of motor vehicles. Thank you.
So the process, it's how to procure it, Cindy and Acting Inspector Mataggart have figured all that out, and they can deal with that part of it. Our job today is to decide if we want to reconfirm that coming out of our budget. Cindy also told us that we'll have a report in July, but at the same time, we know that we're going to have some savings with not having posted the dispatch newsletter this past spring with the potential strike, so we saved on all the postage there. I seem to recall it being somewhere around $200-ish, but like, are we talking less than $500 for what we're looking at?
Madam Chair, absolutely. Definitely for sure under $500.
Councilor Pierce?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I guess I'm definitely in favor of moving this forward. I mean, if we look at it, we just spoke of how this could help with thefts over 5,000, and we're talking 200 to 500. So to me, it's, you know, like I say, by the sounds of it, like I say, it's not used all the time, but if it can be used once, that's more than paid for it in my mind anyway. So I'm in favor of whatever we need to do to put that on the 2025 and get it done and get it bought, and let's start using it.
Yeah, same reasons why we approved it in '24, we would want to approve it in '25. Member Brown and then Mayor Bailey.
Thanks, Madam Chair. If Councillor Pierce is putting that forward as a motion, I'd be pleased to second it. I understand, and I think maybe we need a little more clarity on how we normally do things, but this was urgent in December, so it's just as urgent now, and it would be nice to get this done. And then maybe we can get an update on how the detachment obtains assets in the future, because I'm not sure that it's through us normally. It would be through the county, I believe, but I would just like to know the process, maybe in July or that, how we go about that. But for the sake of this piece, I'd like to see it done as soon as possible.
Mayor Bailey?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just thought the Councillor Pierce was putting it on the floor, and I was prepared to second it.
Okay, thank you. So if there's no further discussion or questions, I think we're reconfirming a discussion we previously already had. So Councillor Pierce is willing to put the motion forward. Member Brown is willing to second it. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So now between between yourselves, the detachment, and Cindy, let's get this thing like ASAP and get that resolved, because I don't want to bring it up again in another budget cycle. Okay, let's move into section 10 of our agenda. We'll turn that over to Councillor Pierce if there's anything from council.
Nothing new has been brought. I will take the information earlier back to Councillor Miller, and unless the board has anything for me to take back, I've got nothing today.
Is there a way we can evolve to also bringing any kind of like, anything in the work that the county's doing, council's doing in terms of road safety, or like I see there's another speed camera potentially going in St. George, and then there's the one here in Paris. Like, is there ways we can, so that we're all kind of learning what other initiatives are happening to help in the community as well? Is that something that you could do, or is that somebody that we could?
Sure, yeah, I could, yeah. I think it's all kind of linked with, you know, kind of through Brant Safe Streets and that as well, but sure, I can do that.
Yeah.
I guess we can note too that the speed camera on Silver Street is back up. So take note, people.
Thanks, Councillor Pierce. For Zone 4 OAPSB, just to note that the September 10th meeting is in person in Woodstock, and the Woodstock Police Services are hosting that. More details on the agenda and whatnot will be forthcoming. And then we'll have an online meeting in November. I don't have the exact date, but it'll be in November. I don't think there's anything else to report on that, other than I believe there'll be Zone 4 membership fees coming out. I don't know if that came out already or not, but we'll have that probably for next meeting. Okay, then I'll just quickly provide a little bit of an update. Oh, sorry, Mayor Bailey.
Madam Chair, do you have the date for the Zone 4 meeting in Oxford?
It's September 10th.
September 10th.
Yep, Wednesday, I believe it is, it's September 10th.
Yeah, can you put me down for that too, please?
Sure.
Yep, thank you.
So moving into then the chair's report, just a note that if you didn't pick one up at the back, the dispatch newsletter in hard copy is at when we walked in. And I think we've previously discussed this, but for anybody that's watching, you can pick up a hard copy at any of the county offices, the community centers, arenas, libraries. I know they've been out at the Detachment, other places, lots of good information in there. It will be interesting to see the click-throughs in terms of that. I know some of us have shared it on social media, and the county shared it, but it'll be interesting to see just that kind of uptake and whether this might be a way to consider getting that information out. If any of you have conversations with your neighbors or colleagues or friends, it would be see what their awareness level is. Did you read the most recent version? And they'll be like, maybe they'll say yes, and maybe they'll say they didn't see it. So it'll be good to understand what path forward that looks like for us, because the postage is so very expensive, as we all know. That's the biggest part of the budget. I also want to note that the Member Stryker, Member Brown, and I, as I noted before, we went to the Ontario Association of Police Service Board Conference in London at the beginning of June. We had first day was specific to O.P.P boards, and we had some training and some discussions, which was really, really good. And they're looking to do additional trainings through the zone meetings, potentially moving forward. Their OAPSB is going to be rebranding their name to OPG, Ontario Police Governance, because we're not a police service board. Half their members are no longer police service boards. We're now detachment boards. Nationally, it's the Canadian Association of Police Governance, so I think they're trying to shorten the acronym. It's not so much of a tongue twister, but they are doing some good work in that area with the training. There's going to be more training required. They did ask us to remind everybody that if you haven't completed the additional training modules online within 6 months of your appointments, you need to have that done. Not just the mandatory ones, but the thematic ones, they have to be done. They know that there's still challenges with the OPC. There's no certificate, so you just have to let, I guess, Cindy or Spencer know if you've completed it or not. The conference also had some really great speakers covering First Nations, some other City of London situational things, Peel region, a number of different topics. But I think the benefit for me was really the opportunity to collaborate with our colleagues and our other board members. Had a chance to talk to Chief Tibb while he was there as well from West Region, and of course with our own, and being able to collaborate with the other boards with Norfolk and Haldimand and Oxford, and being able to chat with them. So that was also very good. Thank you to the board for sending us. I also note that part of the new Community Safety Policing Act is a requirement for an annual report. I know that you all got that start on your calendars. I just want to give you an update on that. It's our responsibility to deliver a report to council at the end of June every year. All police service boards are in O.P.P detachment boards are in the same boat in terms of this process, so there's going to be some leniency in the dates. We're targeting for July at this point. We have received the annual report from, so Acting Inspector McTaggart had to prepare an annual report for 2024 and send that up to O.P.P for approval. That's now been approved. We'll have that in July, along with some commentary from us that you guys can review and approve, and then Cindy's going to get it packaged up appropriately with the communications team so that it can be delivered to council. So we are a little off on like everybody else in the province, but we're still upholding our requirements to get the reports in place. So just wanted you to know that that's something that myself, Cindy, and Acting Inspector McTaggart are working on to make sure that we have a draft for you folks to review for the July meeting. We've already talked about the report template conversations that I had, and with your feedback, taking that to the O.P.P. And we all know the Special Olympics is coming up here. It's a busy, busy time for our team at the O.P.P. I know you guys are gonna be all over the place at all the different venues and all the different things that you're gonna be required to do in terms of the organization, July 10th to the 13th. Some of us are volunteering here in Brant at the softball tournament on the Friday. I think those of us that are available are going to the reception and opening ceremonies on the Thursday. So it'll be a great opportunity for us to interact and support the athletes. Been also talking with Acting Inspector McTaggart about our barbecues, and we're getting that into the works. So we'll have some dates to share with you folks as well. Just trying to see where the Special Olympics and the workload with that was going to shake out. The detachment's also hosting a veterans barbecue this year that'll be joint with Norfolk, I believe. So the veterans will be able to come in and have a similar type of barbecue. That's nothing that we're paying for. That's O.P.P paying for that, but they'll be hosting that as well. And then we'll do ours. And I think that's it for now. There's been quite a lot going on lately, so I just wanted to keep you up to date on some of those things. And of course, it was nice to be able to gather on Friday to be able to congratulate Superintendent Quenneville on her promotion. So thanks to you, Acting Inspector McTaggart, for organizing that little gathering. That was very nice and well-deserved for her. And we'll have more information on the path forward of what that looks like for our detachment, probably at the July meeting. We know that Superintendent Nash is our syndicate's superintendent now. Some of us are familiar with him from his time here in Brant, and I believe you've extended the invitation to him to come in July. Hopefully he's available to come in July for those of you that haven't met him as well. So we'll be able to meet with him. And I think, unless anybody has any questions of me, that's my update. Mayor Bailey?
Just a minute here. Sorry, Madam Chair, back to the brochures, the reports. Has anyone put them in the waiting rooms at the Health Hub?
Through the chair to Mayor Bailey, I'll follow up on that, Mayor Bailey. I'm not sure, but if we haven't, we can put some in there too.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if nothing further, then we don't need a motion to receive any of those updates. So we will now have our in-camera discussion. So we'll need a motion then to go into camera. Councillor Pearson, Member Stryker, thank you. All those approved? All those in favor, excuse me.
Through the chair, the motion to go in camera will be that the County of Brant O.P.P Detachment Board convene in camera to discuss Section 44(2)B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employee of the board.
We're good to go. We're back in session. Thank you, everybody, for the good conversation. We are a little ahead of schedule, which is nice for a change, right? Just a reminder that we do have our next meeting Tuesday, July 22nd here at Council Chambers. We do not have a meeting in August scheduled unless there's some reason that we need to. We traditionally take that time period off. So we do have that meeting. We will try and line up some of the things we talked about today for that agenda. So it'll be a busy meeting, but a productive meeting. So we'll see everybody at the Special Olympics between now and then anyways, but have a great rest of the day and